The Union 0430 is brought to you by Real Geese, the most technologically advanced silhouettes ever produced.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Episode 48 of the Union 0430. As you can see, no Mark again tonight. I think he's in the blind chasing down a gobbler, and he's predisposed at the moment. But we've got Brian McRae back on, if you remember him from one of the very first episodes of the show. And like always, beautiful Phil is down in Oshawa. Brian's in Nova Scotia. Dave's up in Concord, and I'm outside of Kingston. Brian, you're outside of Peterborough, right?
Beautiful downtown Hastings.
Hey, that boy. There you go. And you know what, Brian? Thanks again for coming on, buddy. I didn't give you much notice. But real sport, working from home now. You got no excuses, really, unless I guess the only real excuse you could have now is if the baby needed if Julie needed some time off away from the baby, I guess is really your only excuse now.
Well, you know what? That's the beauty about wearing these, right? You can't hear what everything else is going on, so it almost puts her on call 24/7. But yeah, no, happy to join you guys again.
No, it's great. And you know what? I want to kick off, get right into it, Dave. A topic that you had brought up, and I'll leave it to you, and let's talk this through. But let's start it right off the bat.
Yeah, like we're in the middle of turkey season here in Ontario right now, and the topic often comes up about photography and turkey season, and it seems like there's a lot of gray areas with the photography. Like, what's stopping someone from going out tomorrow, middle of turkey season, with their camera, their calls, and their decoys, setting up in a tent, calling in that bird and taking the pictures of the bird, but they're not actually hunting? And the same would be like, can they do that year round? It's just something that is kind of, it seems like a gray area when you look at the regulations. So I just thought I'd bring it up here today. I don't know, what's your guys' thoughts on that stuff?
It's interesting. I don't do it. I'm not a photographer like Phil, but it just, like, my, blue collar opinion, like, in my opinion, yes, you're not chasing the game technically because there is no harvest. So I don't know if you're able to do it during the hunting season, but I wouldn't see, in my opinion, I would not see a problem. Definitely not a problem doing it in the off season. Again, I've never looked at the regs under this because I've had no desire to go do that. So it's kind of interesting. I think Philly's looking that up right now, but yeah, so I'm kind of curious to see what it is.
What about the whole aspect of interfering with a hunt, right? Because we know that's not allowed. So you cannot interfere with a hunt. So is that a way that you could?
If you're on your private property, you're not really interfering with a hunt, right?
Right.
But like, you're essentially hunting wild game with a camera instead of a shotgun, where you don't need to put the money into your tag to put back into the system, right? And the same would go, like, so you could do this before turkey season started. Like right now, there's some debate on the Ontario forums about maybe the breeding of the turkeys happened back in March during that warm spell. So if someone was so inclined, they could have gone out then, and they would have had the same thrills of hunting a turkey, except when they got into 30 yards, you used your camera to take that picture. So if you do look at the regulations, it seems like a gray area. I talked to a buddy of mine who is a CO, and he said it's kind of a gray area. But I just wanted to bring it up and see what your guys' thoughts were on it. And I know two of you are looking up the regulations now, right? So yeah.
So the Smarty Pants. So let's get the Smarty Pants, both of them, to weigh in on this.
Well, it's definitely a gray area, and I'll use and I think you would probably, if you asked a number of conservation officers, you'd probably get a number of different answers. And the scenario that I would give, and it would be very similar to taking a kid hunting with you. So first, obviously, hunting as defined, and I think Phil's looking up the definition of hunting is lying
Still
in wait,
trying.
calling, actively pursuing wild game. But the example I'll give is when you take a kid out hunting, and I'm not talking a youth who's got their youth apprenticeship. I take Bryce out calling or hunting with me. He's 10 years old. Technically, the way the rules are, Bryce can't use a call. He can't call the ducks, even though he's not hunting. He can't actively participate in the hunt. He's there as viewership. He's there, obviously to learn. But technically, and this is one of the things which is, it doesn't really make sense, and you scratch your head about, and you're trying to get people involved. You want to get them interested in it, but he can't participate anyway actively in that hunt. So I think you're bang on that. It is definitely a gray area, and I would have to actually double check and refer to some of my colleagues, and I could probably get an actual answer from you from enforcement branch in Peterborough on it. But I think you're right. I think it would be at the discretion of the conservation officer depending on the circumstances of it.
So it's actually been bugging me since last turkey season, and so I talked to a kid about what do you want to be when you're older, and he was talking about being a conservation officer. And normally when I have these discussions, when I talk to youth about what they want to be, I think to myself, what would it be like in today's climate to A, get that job, and B, what would it be like in that job? And every year when turkey season rolls around, it's like, my God, it seems like so many gray areas. And the second you show up on a property, some guys just immediately hate you because you are in that role. And that's why today it kind of got brought up again, because I saw some memories from last year, and I remembered it bugged me last year.
But so
here's a caveat to it. You've harvested both your birds, and in the regulations it says that once you've harvested both your birds, you can go out with someone else, right, and help them get their bird. But there's a lot of people that will go out after they've harvested both their birds, go out by themselves and do the same thing, like essentially hunt for another bird, but just take a photo. And last year, the thing that really drove me was there was a guy that went out and he would drive down the road, and if he had permission on the property and he saw a tom, he would try and reap the tom. And if people don't know what reaping is, it's basically like a flat decoy with a handle in the back, and you crawl towards the bird hoping to get an aggressive tom to come out to challenge you, and you're crawling at them like that. And this makes it so that you can get some action. Yeah, kind of like that, right? This makes it so you can get some action shots of them coming towards you, right? Of an aggressive tom coming at you. And the guy posted that, and I was like, man, be careful. Like, I'm not sure if you can do that. And he says, no, you can. And it kind of, I was really questioning it, but hey, that's why I thought I'd bring it up. I'm not putting names out there, but
I'm questioning these regulations and the fact that I can't find the goddamn definition.
So I just found it. It's under the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Act. So hunting, as it says in the FWCA, says hunting includes lying in wait for, searching for, being on the trail of, pursuing, chasing, or shooting at wildlife, whether or not the wildlife is killed, injured, captured, or harassed, or capturing or harassing wildlife. Except that hunting does not include trapping or lying in wait for, searching for, being on the trail of, or pursuing wildlife for a purpose other than attempting to kill, injure, capture, or harass it, unless the wildlife is killed, injured, captured, or harassed as a result. So, in reading that, it would be a permitted activity.
yeah,
Yes.
Exactly.
Photography is not harassment.
Photography is not harassment.
yeah.
So there's
But again, I would stress that it would still probably be gray depending on the conservation officer you encounter, if you encounter one.
Yeah.
And I guess harassing, I guess this is where discrepancy of the CO would come in, because that reaping that you described, Dave, to me, that is harassing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would take that as harassing wildlife. If you're sitting in a blind and you've got decoys out and they're walking towards you, I don't think, and maybe that is harassing, but I think it's a fine line. But actually, like, trying to piss off a strutting Tom to come at you, I think that is harassing, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well,
I
not,
think
not to mention it's breeding season too, right?
Mhm.
Which I think would play into it. It would be different if it was
The
September,
fall, yeah, the
right?
fall
Maybe.
hunt, yeah.
It
That's
sounds,
just, again, that's just my own.
yeah,
my own
it
thoughts on
sounds trifling in nature.
Now-
Shallow and pedantic.
I'd like to caveat everything that we've talked about here. We were just bringing up a discussion, and if it seems like maybe I was attacking someone, I wasn't. But if you feel guilty or ashamed, then you should be.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Hey, nice little segue. Let's go into my favorite topic that I love talking about, and that's douchebags and people that just got to, like, they just can't be happy with other people's successes. And again, I'm not going to get into it, and God knows this person probably doesn't even listen to the show, but I have a strong inclination that if he does listen to this show, he's going to know who we're talking about, and I'll probably get a message. But we have said it a million times on this show that we are our own worst enemy, and we do not do ourselves any favors, because there is this insatiable need to cut one another up. And listen, I am probably one of the most opinionated people you'll ever meet. And God knows I don't like many people, but I will go out of my way not to cut you up.
Oh, I bet I could give you a run for your money, Damien.
Yeah, probably. But you know what I mean? Like, I keep my opinions to myself or within a very close circle. And listen, if you're having success, I'm not jealous. I'm not intimidated. Listen, I'm happy for you. If you're having success, I am genuinely happy for you, as long as you're not stabbing people in the back.
Happiness is contagious.
So, you know, in this small waterfowling community, hunting community that we have in Canada, because it is a very small community, we need to figure out a way that we can all get along and stop cutting one another up and tattling on people. It's just, it makes no sense to me. And I don't mean tattling because it's against the law, because if you're breaking the law, well, then, you know, you're on your own there. But I just, be happy for one another when people have successes. And that's,
I believe there's a song that would be appropriate for your comments, Damien.
oh, and what is that, Philly?
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be
I
friends?
thought you were going to sing "Don't Worry, Be Happy," but yeah,
That also would be appropriate.
it would. I think at the end of the day, if you got a problem with somebody, like, man up, like, or woman up, and fire them a message, or person. Thank you. People kind. Yeah, my mistake. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I know, Brian. I share your opinion. So I see your head going back and forth.
Yeah.
Anyways, like, contact them and be like, hey, you know, I don't necessarily agree with X, Y, Z. Okay. You don't have to like backdoor them. And if you got nothing nice to say, if it's not constructive or it's not professional or polite, just don't say it at all.
Yeah.
Because like, it is a tiny, tiny community, especially on this side of the border.
Yeah.
And we are fighting tooth and nail every day, whether you're a deer hunter, turkey hunter, waterfowler, to recruit, you know, keep numbers up, keep funding, and turning on each other because, you know, you are trying to gain more Instagram likes or whatever is not kosher, and it's not going to help the overall cause of our group. So
yeah, very good points. You know, that, and I think we've made our point on that. Brian, now that we've got some of that out of the way, I want to take the chance to face to say congratulations on your daughter. As somebody once told me, you now have a gentleman's family. That's, well, you have 2 sons and a daughter now, but so a gentleman's family. Congrats. But You're getting a little long in the tooth, buddy, to be having a newborn.
Hey, 27's not long in the tooth. Come on now. Damien, you should know now. My response to that is I'm as old as you want me to be. Come on now.
Yeah, true.
You're 27 with how many years experience?
With experience, yeah. Well, no, first, I appreciate that. It's obviously we weren't expecting to have another one, but you know what? We're extremely happy. Ironically, she's 12 weeks old today. Time flies. It's crazy. Cribbing behind us here, but yeah, no, she's. You know what? I actually, I think I'm a firm believer, and we've talked about my youngest boy Jace a few times, but I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason.
Big time.
And sometimes I don't understand, or I don't know the reasons why, and I think that is true with everyone. But I will say that with the birth of Gemma, we called her Gemma. I think she's actually helping to heal a little bit. And our last experience was less than ideal, and throughout this whole process, it was nerve-wracking, and I probably drank a few too many bottles of these during the process. But she's I think has helped us remember how things normally go, and that the sun always comes up, and so I think it's helping to heal. But yeah, I always joked, having two boys, I've got a lot of pals with girls, and I always joked, I was like, oh man, I feel sorry for you. I said, I'll tell Bryce to have her home by a certain time, but no guarantees, right? And now that's coming around to bite me in the ass. So we've already decided that she's going to be a nun, and so it's all good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Brian,
you say
and
those things, but raising a daughter, you can't control anything. You're going to learn quickly that you are the one that does what you're told.
I've quickly learned that after 12 weeks. I put on a big face, but
so I'll give you, this is what happened when Trish went down and had her ultrasound, and we found out our first child was going to be a girl. And I come back to work, and my buddy said to me, he said, hey, how'd the ultrasound that go? I said, everything's good. Baby's healthy. Everything's good. We're having a girl. And he said, how do you feel about that? And I said, well, I said, I was hoping for a boy. I said, but I'm happy no matter what, right? Like, as long as the baby's healthy. I said, but I was looking forward to a boy. And he looked at me straight face, and he said, I'm going to tell you something right now. He said, you give a girl a hockey stick, she's going to learn how to play hockey. You give a boy a hockey stick, something's getting fucking destroyed. And it is 100% right. Because I have a son and I have a daughter. And from 1 year, from, when he started crawling to 2 years old, it was watching the evolution of man coming out of the cave to the point where he's now a contributing member of society, because whatever he picked up, if he couldn't smash it, he tried to eat it. That was it. That was the mind of the boy. Meanwhile, the girl, completely different, 100%. So I think after your experience with Jason Bryce, when it comes right down to it, not counting the teenage years, because they're going to be hellish, as Dave and I can attest to. But those younger years, you're going to have fun.
That's very much like my 6-year-old, just break stuff.
Yeah. It's the evolution of man. Darwin didn't have to go to the Galapagos Islands. All he had to do was just look at a newborn boy.
My father was looking after my youngest a couple years ago. So we sent him we got like one of those little tiny, the little miniature iPad mini, or whatever the hell it is. So he takes it with him to my parents' house. And obviously the Wi-Fi is not set up on the iPad to my parents' house. And he's trying to do something, like get onto something that requires Wi-Fi and stuff. And he couldn't figure it out. Yeah. Fucking Hulk smash.
All
So, like,
smashed.
3 days later, like I'm at the house here, I'm dicking around, I pick up the iPad and the fucking screen's got a bunch of cracks through it. I'm like, Dylan, the hell happened to the iPad? Oh, tried getting on YouTube and it wouldn't work. So I smashed it. My kid.
I laugh.
Mine.
Meanwhile, if it was my kid, I would have been upset, but I laughed because it's not my kid, and I didn't lose a new
I'm not gonna
iPad.
lie. I've thrown guns. I've thrown fishing rods. I've thrown decoys. I've kicked boats. I've kicked layout blinds. Like, I wonder where he gets it from.
Yeah. Brian, I don't know if you had a chance last week. Yeah, last week we had Corey Baker on, and Corey was talking about the trapping world, and I know that is something you're big into, something that you say you're not a professional, but you're a darn good trapper. And Corey was talking about, how the beaver pelt is not as sought after anymore, but all the other things in the like that castor gland and everything is so sought after. And when he started telling us about what it's being used for, it was mind-boggling. So, like, in your experience now, because I'm pretty sure you had a fairly good winter and spring with beaver, right?
Yeah, I had for as much as I wanted to get out and put them up, had a pretty good year. Yeah.
So what about so what are you noticing within that trapping world? Like, is it a decline in the numbers of people that want pelts, and now they're just using, the other parts of the animal?
Yeah, there's definitely the trapping world. The trapping market is definitely depressed right now with kind of shit going on overseas. Some of the biggest buyers come from Russia and some of the European countries, right? So there's a lot of crap going on over there. But ironically, the fur harvesters, they have an auction house in North Bay. They just had their most recent sale, and it was actually one of the better sales they've had in a long time. And it's not where they used to be, but fur is obviously, it's kind of like hunting, right? There's people who are for hunting and people who are against it. And with trapping, I think it's even compounded more because the lack of education or the ignorance of people, just not realizing what
How
goes
it's
into
done.
it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I got out a little bit this year. Obviously, I got cut kind of short with Gemma being her due date being in February, but beavers are beavers are one of those critters that cause all kinds of destruction for me and for a lot of guys. They
I can't even. You know what?
I was trying to get through it.
I can't even listen to this because every time I hear beaver, like, I'm like a 13-year-old boy, like, and it's horrible. And I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, but like, and you're talking, and it's like, beaver, such a destructive thing. And
buddy, I got a 12-week-old here. Come on now. You think I'm not thinking the same thing?
Hey, nothing good has ever come out of the beaver. Nothing.
Anyway, sorry, Brian, buddy.
Yeah, no, in all seriousness, no, there's with beavers, they're for me and a lot of guys and gals, nuisance work is as much of a job as actually trapping. I do a lot of work for the municipality of Trent Hills here, and I know a lot of guys do a lot of nuisance trapping for folks that they get in and they get in and destroy an area, right? They just they just make an absolutely mess. Fantastic for creating duck holes, honey holes, but from the landscape. But yeah, beavers, the pelts prices have gone down drastically. Casters are kind of the most valuable part, but like for me, I utilize everything. I'm a bear hunter as well. I get involved in everything, and one of the best bear baits is hanging a beaver as well. Everything likes a beaver,
Really,
right?
eh?
So yeah, so and as what a lot of people aren't aware of is as a trapper, actually, trappers can sell beaver carcasses as well. A lot of people don't realize that, but so for me, it's the beaver pelt is actually one of the least valuable things, depending on the sale and depending on the size of the pelt and the market. I've had people have had beaver pelt sell for a couple bucks, and the highest beaver pelt I had went for $60, which is which is pretty good. For the
Really?
market
That's
right
all?
now. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it for
Fuck yeah.
a little bit of money. But what I'm doing this year is I'm sending a few pelts away to get tanned. Actually, a lot of folks are doing that, selling tanned pelts to folks as trappers. We can do that legally now, and there seems to be a growing market of folks wanting them for wall hangers.
Mhm.
Putting them in the man cave along the bars or wherever the case may be, whether it's a fox or a wolf or a coyote or a beaver or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But I'm getting some custom winter mitts made with some of the beaver fur that I got done up this year.
Very
So
cool.
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's really cool. That's really
Is
good.
that,
I had a coyote pelt for the longest time that I went to Fleming and Lindsay and studied fisheries biology and wildlife management. And one of our like school assignments, I think was in my second year, is we had to get like a critter and like skin it out and tan it in the whole nine. So I scored a roadkill coyote and skinned it out, fleshed it, tanned it, like the whole nine. I had it hanging in the basement for like the longest time. A little mangy in the ass end, but the rest of it was pretty cool.
All Phil's classmates were pissed at him, right? Because they got that fucking crack squirrel from downtown Lindsay, and Phil's rocking, Phil's rocking in with a fucking coyote.
They go coyote.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people did deer. There was a couple of groundhogs, like all kinds of random
That's
shit.
pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah.
Actually, Brian, I tell you what, that is something I would like to have for this area right here is a wall hanger. So when you do get some, let me know, because I really would like to buy one off you, because I something I would like to have.
Yeah, well, we can chat. We around here. Well, I actually just secured a trap line in Perry Sound District, so I'm going to be able to get into some new critters that aren't down here. But on a typical year for me down here where I am, I get everything from beavers to otters. Otters are beautiful. The fur on otters, muskrats, coyotes, fox sometimes, fisher sometimes if I have enough, if I get the quota for them. So there's lots of things. I've had some friends, use some fisher for some fur around the jackets, the winter jackets.
Yeah.
It's utilizing a resource that's
Have
readily
you,
available, sustainable resource.
Have you ever targeted lynx?
Obviously down here, there's no season for them.
No. Okay.
So where my trap line is in Perry Sound, there is a population of lynx. I don't have a quota of lynx on my new trap line, but
right.
Folks do get them as incidentals. I have some friends up in Thunder Bay area that they target lynx every year.
Yeah.
They're a cool critter.
Oh yeah, they are. They're amazing, man.
They eat up, fun fact about those, they eat up to 200 rabbits a year.
Really?
One lynx, yeah. So that's just like every animal, right? They run with the cycles, right? High rabbit population, your lynx population. Rabbit populations plummet, so will your lynx populations, right? We see that down here.
Yeah. So we had Corey on. So when we had Corey on, he had just moved into a new property out in the country. And he said, like, when he moved out there, he had prime real estate for a very healthy rabbit population, but no rabbits. And then he started noticing coyotes coming around on times of day when you shouldn't be seeing coyotes, and you shouldn't be seeing them in places where he was seeing them, right? So anyways, he ended up taking out a couple coyotes, and lo and behold, rabbit population started to increase again, right? So it made 200 rabbits a year.
That's crazy, right? Well, you know what, we can liken it right back to the heart of Punisher waterfowl in these conversations, right? Trapping plays a critical role in predator control for ducks and geese, right?
Big time.
I know organizations like Delta, they actively hire trappers on a lot of their properties to manage those critters, right? And that, I see it even on our uncle's property. He's got a beautiful pond back there where I do some waterfowling, and you knock the crap back out of the raccoon populations, and if you got quotas for fisher, and you take out a mink every once in a while, maybe get some weasels, it's going to help your hatch, right? Those critters aren't getting into the wood duck boxes and whatever have you, right? So
and even crows too. Crows are a huge, and like as most of us know, Troy Pointer, and follow Troy on social media. Like he was smashing the shit out of crows down around his neck of the woods, and that's a huge help to the duck nests and
Are
egg survival. And
are crows considered a nuisance animal? Because I know when I was in New Brunswick, are they the same in Nova Scotia, Ryan? They were a nuisance bird in New Brunswick, and you could just go out and smash crows, right?
They are here.
Yeah.
The thing you got to be careful, a lot of people don't know, especially where I live, there's a lot, and I mean a lot of ravens. So, and you can't shoot a raven. You can shoot a crow, but you can't shoot a raven. So if you don't know how to identify the difference, like just don't risk it. But
ravens are like twice the size too, though, right?
They are, but you can get a young one that looks like a big crow. But
fair enough.
Their bills are substantially larger than a crow. So
I've seen ravens up in Thunder Bay, like where we moose hunt. Like they'll get into a gut pile, and like they're big. They're a big bird, like not quite the size of like a Canada, but like they're a big bird.
So Brian, that's a really good point, and I don't think we've ever on this show we've tied predator control to waterfowl hunting, but we've never tied the importance that the trappers, like the people themselves that are trapping, and just how important the work that they're doing is to helping with that new hatch every year, right? And you brought up a really good point, because every one of those animals that you're trapping, they're out hunting for those hen houses and those wood duck boxes, and they're just destroying that new hatch, right? So and yeah, go for it, buddy.
Well, when we talked about it last episode about how it was Earth Day or whatever, and then Cabela's actually put out a thing like, for conservationists, every day is Earth Day.
Yeah.
And you start looking at, like, as wetlands start reducing, you have to do things, because you can't just keep rebuilding them and keep up with it.
Yeah.
So predator control and conservationists were building wood duck boxes and putting up hen nests and all these other things we're doing to try and help the population, right? Like, there's a big cycle there that us as hunters and conservationists are a big part of, and the trappers don't get enough credit for what they do.
Very true.
At the end of the day, right, whether you're an angler, a hunter, or a trapper, you're stewards of the land, right? And you are, we have seasons. They're there for a reason. Even trapping, there are regulations on, what we can trap, when we can trap, just like any hunting season as well. And I hear little Miss Gemma awake. So it's to your point, and it everyone works together. Even though a lot of folks really sometimes don't connect the dots, they all play a role, right?
Absolutely.
And it's all about wildlife management. And just like hunters won't go out and shoot every last critter on the landscape, much to some people's thoughts and their views. Trappers are the same way, in that you're managing your line, so to speak, so you can continue to harvest species each year, right? Like for fisher, I'll get one fisher a year. It's set up for one fisher doesn't seem like a lot, or it seems like a lot of work for one critter, but you know what, I'm okay doing that if I get one fisher every year, and I can have that opportunity, because it's something unique, it's something different, right? So it all plays into it, and I think everyone plays an active role, and kind of, it goes back to a conversation we had earlier tonight, is we're our own worst enemies, and at the end of the day, we as a community are the ones that do the most for fish and wildlife conservation anywhere, right? So
absolutely,
we should be proud of that, and never shy away from having those conversations.
They say that hunters are the biggest conservationists, right?
Yeah.
For the amount of money that we put back into the sport and the resources and stuff.
Yeah.
What exactly does anti-hunting hate propaganda go towards?
Well,
nothing.
Now, Brian, for all of our listeners that maybe might want to get into trapping, it's not something that is just covered by our hunting license. And maybe, like, if you don't know exactly like what the credits are or whatever, but give a little overview of what it takes to get your trapper's license in Ontario here?
Sure.
If you can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's, you know what, it's very much like getting your hunting license. There's a mandatory trapper's course that you have to take. Don't quote me on it. I believe it's about 40 hours. I did it over 2 weekends. And, you know, for me, you know, I didn't take the trapping course or become a trapper to turn a profit. I wanted to do it because I always had an interest in it. You know, obviously Canada was built on trapping. That's beyond anything. That's what we were built on. So I always had kind of an interest in it. And, you know, for me, the 2 weekends it was like a kid in a candy store. I was just eating up the information. So when I took my course, um, it was the first couple days. The first weekend was, you know, you were in the classroom doing theory, and then the third day, you know, the instructor brought in some critters, and we practiced, you know, skinning the critters, which is part of the course. And I was lucky enough that my instructor he actually had his own trap line. So on the fourth day, we did our class on his trap line. So all of our practical stuff of learning how to do sets, whether it was land sets or in water, we were right out there. You know, we were crawling on beaver dams and going and looking for the sign and stuff. So, you know, I thoroughly enjoyed the course. And, you know, the great organization, the Ontario Fur Managers Federation, they're kind of responsible for looking after the course, much like OFH is for the Hunter Ed program. And, you know, so there's trappers, just like Hunter Ed, there's trappers throughout the province. And, you know, there's a link on their OFMF webpage that you can go on. I highly recommend it. You know, even if you don't want to trap, just to learn about, you know, a different species and how that plays into everything, right? And right down to track management and track identification when you're out in the bush or you're with a new snowfall. I really enjoyed the course. I really appreciated doing it. And I'm only, I guess I'm 7-8 years into it now, but I thoroughly enjoy it. And I found that even, you know, on that property I was talking about, you know, I've been taking my one fisher a year type of thing for the most part each year. And, you know, I see my grouse populations go up. Right. So, you know, just those minor things that, you know, you don't really think means a lot. It all plays into it. So it's a simple course. It's, you know, it's relatively inexpensive. It's a couple $100. I don't have the exact price on me, but um, it's a great course. And just like the Hunter Ed, you know, youth can get involved. You can get your youth trapper's license at 12 as well. So it's a great opportunity to get, you know, youth involved. Bryce has been coming with me since he's been, you know, 5 or 6 years old, I guess. You know, him saying cheese behind a raccoon that I got right, you know, right from the start. So, you know, it's I think it's important for kids to understand good wildlife management, and it's not just killing things. You know, it's everything's being utilized. And it's that's one of the big things that a lot of people don't realize. They just think, oh, you're just going out to kill for killing. And that's, you know, I don't have to tell you guys that. That's not the way it is. And, you know, my job every day, you know, most days I'm talking about this with people too. So no, it's a great course. I really enjoyed it, and, you know, I'm always happy to chat with it. And, you know, like I said, I got that new trap line in Perry Sound. I'm looking forward to getting up there soon to start exploring it. And you know, I'm the type of person that, you know, if someone's interested, and I did this with the trap line I had in Chapleau. I had some buddies hitch along when I was going up, just to go up and kind of see what it's all about. I'm always open to that. So it's just another hobby I have, I guess.
I got a question for you, Brian, about trap lines. How does someone, like, what exactly is a trap line? How can you obtain one? Like, is there certain geographical blocks that the MNR lays out? Like, how does trap lines work?
Yeah, so trap lines, registered trap lines, you know, I should be saying registered trap lines, are all on Crown land. And so obviously the bulk of the bulk of Southern Ontario essentially don't have trap lines because it's primarily private land. So a trapper can secure permission on private land with a signature and trap on all those. For registered trap lines, the ministry will basically grid off Crown land into sections, and it's all broken down into their geographical area. So, you know, it'll be Perry Sound District and Sudbury District, and Chapleau District, Thunder Bay District, that sort of thing. So they'll kind of break their Crown land down into sections, and each section will be a registered trap line. So, as a trapper, you earn points basically. You get points for, how many years you've trapped. Did you take the trapper's course? Have you been marketing fur? Are you an O2 on a line? But O2 means, are you a helper on a line? Obviously, do you have indigenous connections to the line? There's a lot of things that go into it, but it's basically it's awarded on a point system. You have to apply for a specific trap line. So it's much like, if you're like when you're applying for your bull tag, Phil, right? You're looking at a certain WMU and you're applying for a bull for cow, or a bull for the gun season, a cow for the gun season, right? It's similar for trapping. You kind of identify a region where you want to go. You make connections with the district M&R office. You wait for trap line allocations, which normally happens, January, February, March, sometime in that range. They go out with any trap lines that are available. You fill out some forms, you submit. If it's your lucky day and you are the successful candidate, you're offered the trap line. And I you can get into it. There's, if the trap line's vacant, there's no cost to it. So I was lucky in the trap line I had. It was a vacant trap line, so it didn't cost me anything. If I was to go on that trap line and really invest time, I could go through the proper channels. I could build a trap cabin. I could use it throughout the year for trapping purposes or maintenance. If I wanted to get rid of that and you were the successful candidate, you actually it doesn't cost you anything for the trap line, but you would negotiate with me then for what's called improvements on the line. So, that trap line cabin, there's a cost to it if I was including an ATV or whatever the case may be. So you and I would deal directly for that. But to answer your question, yeah, it's they're all registered through the MNRF and they're regulated, and there are quotas for each trap line that you've got to kind of adhere to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like where we moose hunt up past Thunder Bay, it's obviously, I guess, the kind of quasi crown land, but I think currently Wagner owns, I guess, the forestry rights, whatever the case may be. That's the area that we hunt, and there's actually a trapper that has his cabin, like, I don't know, I think we're like 20K into the bush, and we've been moose hunting this property, I think, like our group, some of the members, since like the late 80s. And over the course of time, we become friends with this guy, and he'll come over, and we'll have have a sip here and there, and like we become friends over the years, and he traps the area and looks after the wolves and the beaver and this and that, because like the beavers, they'll wash out roads, dam up culverts, and we've actually physically seen some of the damage that they've caused while being there moose hunting. And like, obviously, if we see something, we'll let Dan know, like, hey, dude, like, beavers are in the works over in this spot. He'll go over, clean out a culvert, whatever, set up, a couple sticks there just outside the culvert, put the trap down, the whole nine, and he'll flag it. And obviously, we don't be poking around in there, you'd be losing a finger or something. But it's very very interesting sport, I guess you could say, that people take part in. And obviously, it contributes to a lot of things and whatnot, and it's good to see.
Not that I've ever trapped, but there was a couple of old fellas back when I was growing up that had trap lines, and we used to try to snare fox. Never any luck with a fox, just a wiry creature. But from what I do know about it, like, you got to know what you're at. Like, no average Joe is just like, you're not walking in your first day and putting traps down and getting something. Like, it's a process to learn. And it surely it's an art to be able to do it. Yeah. And to be able to do it ethically too, right? To make sure that you're doing it the right way. Like, it certainly is an art, and something that's learned over time, and not something that you could pick up in a weekend. The course is just the start, I would say, Brian?
Yeah, the course is a good start, and you're definitely right. I remember, like, the first year, I didn't even, like, I was trying to get red squirrels. Like, I was trying to master red squirrels, and they're probably one of the easiest things to catch, right? But it's like everything, right? You invest time. You're not going to be an expert goose caller when you pull up that, you pull up a rusty skull, right? A heron's call. You're not an expert the first time you blow that. And, the same with, if you throw a diaphragm turkey call in your mouth, you'd be lucky if you get the right sound out of it after a week of trying, right? It's like everything. You got to invest your time. You got to be invested in it, and you got to have the willingness to learn. And trial and error. And just like, if I'm going out to set my tree stand up, I'm looking to set that tree stand in an area where there's game trails. Well, your trapping's no different, right? You take the same mentality. That's the mentality I've had is, you're looking for the same sign. You're looking for animal critter sign.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, how are you doing so far on turkey? I know you and Bryce were out.
Yeah, we got one opening day in the evening. I struck out in the morning, not for lack of turkey action. They just they didn't want to cooperate. The hens came in, and I think the toms, I had 6 toms just off to my left, about 65, 75 yards that hung up. And I guess they would already finished with the hens, and they were more interested in picking bugs than coming over to see my sexy looking hen decoy. But I took Bryce out on opening day for an afternoon hunt on a farm I actually just got around the corner here. And we had scouted a couple times and seen birds in the field, but so we walked in, and sure enough, there were 3 birds out. It's a huge winter wheat field, which on a side note, I'm pretty stoked because I actually secured the property for goose hunting.
Yeah.
And it kind of funneled into turkey. Actually, to be honest, if I want to go real back, what got me into the farm was nuisance trapping. He wants me to come in and take out some nuisance critters. So through negotiations, I don't charge him, and he gives me access to his 200-acre farm. But it's I think I made a Facebook post. I said it's field of green, huge winter wheat field, and it's right beside my buddy's property, who has 67 acres, and it's right on a little private lake. So it's nice. Like you got the roost, you got feet. Anyways, we walked in, and there were 3 birds on the far side of the field, and from 200 yards away, they saw us, and they kind of fucked off. And so we walked in, got set up, and found a beauty spot. And obviously first time in the farm, didn't really have a whole lot of thought process into where we should set up, but we got set up, and Bryce had a little siesta there for about 40 minutes with the sun shining on him. And I was just kind of calling lightly, and he woke up, and it was about 4:30, and all of a sudden I heard, that sounded really close. And we had set up right behind a great big boulder. We were leaning against it. It was kind of a perfect setup. And I looked back, and not 7 yards behind us, there were 3 jakes who had obviously been hearing me calling, but were quiet. So I would whisper into Bryce, I'm like, buddy, don't move. They're right behind us. So he's like, his eyes are just like bug eyes, right? And
saucers.
So, they obviously knew something was up. So they backtracked a little bit, but they cut through the bush. And I told Bryce, I said, watch right beside us. They're going to come out. And sure enough, not 3 seconds later, they popped out into the field, and a couple soft purrs and a cluck. They came over, and it took over 10 minutes for them to separate. I asked Bryce, I said, are we going to shoot a jake? He's like, yeah, Dad, I don't want you to shoot. That kid, man, he loves his turkey strips battered in fish crisp, fried in butter, man. I tell you what, man, I said to him, I said, you want me to shoot it? And he was already, mouth was drooling. He's like, yeah, Dad, take it if you. So we had to wait for 10 minutes for the buggers to separate it enough, which, I love situations like that because, Bryce just turned 10. So, he's not far off getting his youth apprenticeship. 2 years from now, he's going to be out in the field with me, just like other lucky dads. And so it was, for me, I thought it was a great learning experience where, he's like, Dad, shoot us. You can't shoot, bud. You got to wait for them to separate. You can't take 2 with 1. And so it was great. He was like, every time I said, okay, buddy, get ready. I'm going to shoot. He'd slowly get his hands up. We forgot his earmuffs, right? So he'd slowly go up. And then all of a sudden hear Dad say, shit. So anyways, long story short, they finally separated. We shot the biggest one, just collapsed him, and he was jumping for joy. So it was a special hunt for me. It's no trophy bird from a size or beard length, but for me, those memories, and I know I'm not the only one to say that, but who cares what size the bird is? It's I had a great afternoon hunt. We were out there for an hour and 20 minutes, right? Like, max, and that was walking in and walking out. So you can't script it any better for getting kids interested. And I said to Bryce, I said, what do you think? He goes, oh man, I love turkey hunting. He goes, you know what? we always get one too.
That's
'Cause
awesome.
our last
yeah,
time last year we
you've
got
grown.
one. So
It's
Oh,
just that easy. It's just that easy. Yeah.
it's just that
you've
easy.
grown.
Yeah.
Just like on
it-
TV.
it
Just
would
like on
be,
TV.
it wouldn't be right. Now that you've talked, and I'm sorry that I forgot about it and just now bringing it up, but Dave had an impressive, and you know what? That was a big old bird that she shot, buddy.
Oh yeah, she did good.
She
She
did
was
do
so-
good.
So opening morning, like all week, she's been getting advice from other turkey hunters, like, oh, make sure you shoot a big one and only shoot big ones. And like we went out 3 times in the last week she's been shooting a 410 before, but we've been shooting the 20 gauge, teaching her how to shoot. And it just a little bit too much kick for her still. She's pretty small. And finally on the Friday, she was like, okay, Dad, I'm ready. Like I took her out after work, shot it. She's like, okay, I'm ready. So then we scouted on Saturday night, and there was another guy scouting the field beside us, and we could see all the toms in the field. And he's like, you see that big one there? That's the only one you should shoot. Get that. And I'm like, fuck that. If a Jake walks by, she's shooting a goddamn Jake.
Yeah.
First bird out of the way, right?
Yep. Can't eat the
Well,
beard.
That's right.
No.
Yeah. So the first day, opening morning, we had a pretty big one. I'm pretty sure it was the same bird. Kind of, they're all grouped up right now. There's 11 birds in the field, and the one tom kind of came in. It came to 40 yards, and I just said no. She was shaking like terribly, like just shaking like a leaf. And she's like, "Can I shoot it? Can I shoot it?" And I'm like, "No." And it just kind of stood there, looked at us, looked at the decoys, kind of thing, and then turned and left. And I just wasn't gonna put that shot on her, right? Like it wasn't worth it. So I set up the decoy. The next day was 0 degrees around, and I wasn't. Another thing I do with youth is when I take a new hunter out or a youth hunter is I make sure that it's decent weather. Like I don't want them to experience a shitty hunt because it's pouring rain and they don't see anything, or cold and they don't see anything. I try to keep it positive, right? So I just said, no, we can't go out tomorrow. And so on the 3rd day of the season, which was, I guess that would have been the Tuesday.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't even think of it. And she's like, Dad, can we just go out before our school? Like my online learning doesn't start until 9 a.m. Can I just go out? And I'm like, okay. And then I talked to my wife and I said, is it okay? And Stacy, bless her heart, she's like, yeah, but you have to be home by 9. So I secretly told my daughter, I said, listen, if there's turkeys working, we're not leaving. And you're just, I'll have to call in sick for you from the blind. And so we get out 6:30 in the morning.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see the first bird come down at like 6:10. And I was like, oh, Abby, look out. So we're in a blind, right? Because with a kid, I have the blind set up just so that I can like maneuver and like talk to them. And I kind of held her back just for the to help her with the shot. But so we're in the blind, and I have the one just a little corner peeked open where I know they're going to come out of the roost. And the first one came down, so I'm like, oh, Abby, look out there. And she's looked. Well, sure as shit, the other 10 of them flew down all at the same time. And she just turned to me with these great big eyes, and she's like, Dad, they're all in the field. And I'm like, yeah. And they all started walking like to the other end, like away from us, like didn't even look at the decoys, didn't respond to calling or nothing. I was like, oh, we're toast. And then out of the bush, another bird's coming in, and it's beelining it to us. And I'm looking at it, and she's like, Dad, it's coming. She's just whispering, but so anxious and excited. And I'm like, oh, Abby, it's just a hen. Like, well, the thing came in. So I set my decoys at a Tom and a Jake and a hen on the ground, like a breeder set up at 10 yards. And then two hens feeding at about 15 yards. Well, this thing goes right to the middle of the 3 and just starts howling and making every kind of racket you can think of, yelping. And I'm like, oh. And then all of a sudden, just kind of out of the corner of the eye, I just see this white head like coming really hard, coming at the decoys. And I was like, shit, this thing's going to come over and fight my Jake. And it's going to be really cool to see, but that's going to be one of those life lessons that I don't want to be the one to talk to her about, that maybe her mom should. So I just decided, Abby, this thing's walking towards us. I want you to get ready with the gun. And as soon as you're ready, I'll make a sound and it's going to stop and stick its head up and then you shoot it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing's going, I putt and the thing just kind of sticks its head up and she's so anxious. She's pulling the trigger and she's like pulling it hard. Dad, it's not firing. It's not firing. I'm like, yeah, take a second. And she's like, what? I'm like, take a breath. She's like, okay, what? Now take the safety off.
God love her.
And it kind of calmed down. She takes the safety off and blasts it. And then, yeah, it kind of did the whole wobble and laid down and she was kind of like sat there looking at it.
Yeah, it was a beauty bird. God love her. That was a beauty bird. And you know what? A pretty memorable hunt. And obviously you're just as excited as what she is, right? So that's, you know, it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing, buddy. Pretty happy for you.
She's been spoiled too, where every time she goes out, like take last season, for example, my son got his first bird and then my daughter just wasn't interested because she wasn't allowed to hunt. So she's just like, you just go out with Kobe. Well, then I took a friend out with his daughter and we hadn't seen anything for like 3 weeks. And we're like, what are we going to do? So I take my friend out with his daughter and I set them up in a little spot. And my son and I go to the other spot that was like pretty active and he shoots the biggest turkey I've ever seen. And it's just because my daughter's there, right? Meanwhile, my son, he goes out and like maybe once every 30 times. He's realistic, right? Whereas, yeah. One thing I do want to say, a shout out to Emily there that was on our show. She's been talking to Abby about it afterwards. And she's kind of one of the ones, she's kind of one of the ones that got Abby like, oh, she's a big, you can be a girl and you can be a big hunter. And I said, yeah, like that's someone you look up to, is someone that's doing it right. And they're not just like going out and getting guided. They're becoming a guide and they're learning how to call and they're putting in the time and the effort. And then, so she's looked up to Emily and I mentioned it I just sent her a nice message. I said, thank you. Like she looks up to you. And Emily says, oh, well, lo and behold, Emily added her to Instagram and they've been talking and
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's awesome.
That
made
is
her day, I think.
That's awesome. And such a strong role model for a young girl to look at, you know, like if you remember back to Emily's episode, you know, came from a family of non-hunters, everything that, you know, all of her successes up to this date have been just through hard work and determination on her part, right? And you know, her and Ryan talked about guiding and how she'd be like stressing out because she'd had clients and stuff like that. Like she's just an awesome role model for a young girl who's interested into the hunting world for sure.
And it's good. Like my daughter's 12.
Yeah.
And there's not many girls her age that are actually out there hunting and actually harvesting. And her and her best friend are both doing it this year. Her best friend's dad's taking her out. And both of them, like, they're now both following Emily and seeing what's going on. And yeah, it's good to have a good role model.
Big time.
Amen to that.
Bit of a shameless plug for Dave Palmer. If anybody's looking for a custom slate call, reach out to Dave. Like, just look at the beautiful swirl and the burls and the bird's eye and that. Just saying.
To be fair, to get a
Dave
piece
makes
of
an
wood
awesome
like that,
call.
it takes about a month to get that piece of wood in, just so people know.
To be fair.
Custom. To be fair.
Little matching red slate on the front there. Yeah.
Hey,
just
I don't
received
want
this
to
on Monday.
Don't want to burst your bubble there, Philly, but mine's ceramic. Just saying.
Just wait.
And Damien, just so you know, pal, if we get out of this, you know, the situation we're in, and the stay-at-home order ends, I think we're supposed to end middle May.
Yeah.
I got a farm that invite's there for you, pal. You want to come down? I was out.
Absolutely.
I was out yesterday morning, and I had 18 birds in the one field I was in. So there's no shortage of birds.
You know what? I got
a bearded hen with a 5-inch beard.
You know what I was thinking of? Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Oh no, you bring up that bearded hen. and there was actually a few discussions, one on the Ontario turkey hunting forums, and people were talking about how it's unlawful. Now, first off, it's legal. It's fully legal to shoot a bearded hen.
100%.
But I think they're talking about ethical. And I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying that if it's legal, the ethical side of it is up to the shooter.
That's right.
If you don't believe that it's the right thing to do, then you don't do it.
Mhm.
But don't be telling people online what is ethical and what's not. You can tell them your belief and why. Like,
That's
maybe
right.
this person doesn't know that you're shooting that bearded hen and there could be a nest full of eggs. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, leave
That's right.
leave your personal opinion about whether it's ethical or not out of it. Just say, hey, do you know that? Right. Anyway,
Well,
sorry. I just had to
I
say
thought
it.
long and hard. I thought long and hard because the first thought, my thought process I had was I was going to call up my good friends at Advanced Taxidermy, and she would look beautiful an amount down in the new man cave, because I've hunted turkey for a long time. I've seen two, and it's not something you see every day. But she ironically she had a much longer beard than the Jake she came in with. So it was but anyways, yeah, Damien, we get out of this mess, we'll get you down to beautiful Hastings, and we'll see if we can't get you a bird.
Yeah, but you know what? I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it a lot today, and I was really thinking about Ryan's dad. Ryan's dad is something else. Like, I've never seen somebody so excited over other people shooting birds. And like, the guy won't even take a gun. He'll come out and sit and watch you hunt and not hunt himself, and then be excited for you that you're hunting, right? And I got thinking about it, and I'm like, I am, now don't get me wrong, I fucking love shooting birds. But I'm starting to turn into Doug. Like, I'm starting to see the fun of just being around people and their excitement. Like, I'm jealous just of you and Dave now, right, Brian? Like, I've got my son. I haven't been out yet. We'll go out. We're planning on starting to go out next week. And I took him out with me last year. But it wasn't a great experience for him because I didn't dress him up warm enough. And he was a little bit cold, but he still had fun. But like, I'm jealous now today, listening to you two talk about out with your kids and harvesting birds and seeing that excitement on them. And I've been watching videos on Facebook, and there's one of this kid, it must be his first hunt, and he drops a turkey. And I'm telling you, like, he's high-fiving his dad. Like, it is the best day of his life. His dad's crying because he's so happy. This kid is just ecstatic because he's killed his own bird. And you could take, and I said this on the post when I made the post about Abby, for a kid these days, and I want the listeners to really think about this, and you might think it's a bit bullshit what I'm saying, but if you think about the pressures that kids today are under, I should say, my English is horrible. But you think about all the pressure that they get from social media, from school, from wherever else, and then they decide that they want to go out and they want to harvest an animal and put food on their table. That is not something that's the norm in a teenager's life anymore. Not like when we were growing up. And obviously your geographical location has a lot to do with that. But you look at like Abby, Dave, like up where you guys are, like, there's not a lot of girls that's looking to go out at 12 years old to go out and hunt turkey. Bryce is a hockey player. Like, how many of his buddies are out chasing birds? Do you know what I mean? And you could say that I'm spewing bullshit here, but the fact that I bet you when Bryce shoots his first bird, and Dave, when Abby, the day that you cook up the bird that Abby shot and you put it on the table and you make the point that everybody knows this is the bird that Abby shot and we're eating it, you know what? That's a huge feather in the hat for that kid. That kid can now go say that none of his or her friends are doing. And that's a huge, huge thing in a world where girls, especially girls, but even so boys, where they're scrutinized about every little thing that they do. And to be out and carve their own path and to go out and harvest an animal and put food on their family's table. Listen, it's not the 1800s anymore. No one's going to starve because you didn't shoot that turkey. But the fact that you're hunting and you're putting food on your family's table, I bet you it is a huge, huge deal to any kid that's out hunting.
I've said it before here and I'll say it again. There's a movie on Netflix called The Women Who Kill Lions. Especially if you're going to take your daughter out or if you're getting your kids into this, watch that and see, because it does happen. You post a picture and you put a hashtag wildlife on it and someone clicks that wildlife and they see you with a dead animal, they might DM you. And girls especially will get, I can't believe you kill animals and I'm going to do what you did to that animal. And they are death threats. They are threats, right?
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. But yeah, it's the amount of pressure on the outside. Now, both of my kids, I've made sure that anytime one of their friends shows interest, we take them out. I talk to the parents and we take that kid out. Whether that kid gets his hunting license or not, more often than not, I'll find that kid will get his hunting license, and because he has to have a parent with him, the parent is obligated to get the hunting license too. But it's just such a different world now that we're living in. Yeah.
I agree. I've for years I've told Bryce, and Bryce is, I'm an avid angler, I'm an avid hunter, I'm a trapper. Bryce has been eating weird shit his entire life. And, this is the kid who goes to school and is telling his teacher that, he's eating squirrel and he's had beaver and he's eaten muskrat. And, and I always tell Bryce, never be ashamed to tell people what you do, because you're doing it. There's a reason why you're doing it. You're doing it legally, just like everyone else going shopping. You know what? You go shopping, that's fine. That's what you want to do. I want to go hunting with my dad, or I want to go wherever, right? I said to him, never be ashamed of that. And I said, like for us, we stock our freezer. And Damien said, and that's something we hear all the time is, we don't, people don't need to hunt or fish to sustain themselves anymore. And you know what, while there's truth in that, I would say that, and it all goes down to the personal choice of the people, right? Like, for us, we don't buy beef. We stock our freezer with deer and bear and waterfowl and whatever other critters. And for us, that, it is feeding our families, even though, we could go to the grocery store. Sure, we could do that. But you know what, I take a lot of pride, much like everyone that I know takes a lot of pride in the harvest that they get. They take the time and care and, making sure it's, you're putting it into your body, you're eating it, you're making sure it's clean, you're getting all those pieces off. My wife never knew a hunter before she met me. She had never eaten wild game. And, for her now, she has her hunting license, she has her firearms license. She hasn't come out with me yet, like to hunt. She's been out on some hunts with us, but we that's all we eat. It's venison and bear and such like that. So you're absolutely right, Dave. There's a lot of pressures out there, and I always tell Bryce, don't be ashamed for what you do. Be proud of what you do. Take the time to educate people on what you do, and it doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or 12 years old, or my best buddy from Pembroke, we call him Uncle Sean. A few of you guys have met him at our dinners. He grew up in a hunting family either, and I met him in college, and I was going out duck hunting one morning. He's like, "Hey, can I come?" And he was hooked. right?
Mhm.
So it's, it's just about having those conversations. So you're absolutely right. It's you know what, let's embrace it. Let's get more people involved, talk about it. It's about investing the time, and as Damien said, it's not about pulling the trigger. Shit, I'm just as happy when someone else is shooting their first duck or shooting their first turkey, or having their first bear come in, or whatever the case may be. For me, it's all just, it's getting out there and seeing the smiles on people's faces, right? That's what gets me. Damien, you talked about social media posts, and there's one social media post that got me, and I'm a little biased. I'm starting to get teary right here, but everyone knows my story with my son Jace. There's a video that surfaced about a year or two ago, and I have actually had numerous conversations about this with a good friend of all of ours, is Mr. Steve Sugulik down in southwestern Ontario. But there was a little boy. He was disabled. He was in a chair, and anglers took him out fishing. They had him situated on the bass boat, and he caught his first fish. And this kid was, I don't know, he was 10 or 12 years old,
Mhm.
and he needed a lot of assistance, just the same as Jace would.
Yep.
But the sheer excitement on
Yeah,
that
buddy.
little boy's face, we take it for granted. We take it for granted that stuff that we can easily do. Here's a little boy that needed likely 2 or 3, maybe even 4 people to situate him on a boat, to get his chair fastened appropriately, to get out, who wants to do it, who wants to take the time to
Mhm.
spend time to take somebody out, let alone someone who is disabled, may not be able to communicate with them.
Yep.
And that video, it went viral. It came from the States somewhere. I'm sure I could find it.
Yep.
The excitement on his face was just unbelievable. And, that has me thinking, from a dad who's, who has a son in a very similar situation. I talk about taking Bryce out all the time. It crushes me to the soul that I can't do that with Jace.
Mhm.
And, it's not that I can't do it. It just requires so many additional steps and so many additional pieces of equipment and all that
Yeah.
other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's about creating those opportunities. And I have thought long and hard about taking what I'm doing with Jace and helping others to somehow to incorporate that in. And this is where I've had that chat with Steve a few times about, there's a lot of kids out there who, and I shouldn't even say kids, I'm referring to kids because I'm thinking Jace, but there's a lot of folks out there who just aren't given the opportunity.
Very
Who
true.
knows if they want to,
Yeah.
right? And whether it be hunting or fishing or whatever the case may be, if we could make ourselves more available and have more people, I'm participating in a Zoom call tonight with 4 other guys, and one's missing, who are very welcoming into taking people out. But if we could, I would say that the masses aren't as welcoming.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just the sad reality of it.
Well, buddy, I
And
tell you what, once I get my little spot squared away here, it'll be easy for him. We can just roll him right into the blind and sit him down, and he'll just, there'll be the only extra work would be,
keeping them quiet.
or the only extra work is just feeding them, would be the only extra work. That's
There's
all
n-
it is.
There's
Yeah.
there's no way in hell he's louder than Damien. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
No,
listen, guys, we're running out of time, and it just wouldn't seem right, Brian, to have you on without giving a quick shout out to Wald for Hope. And we could go on for hours, boys, and I know we can, but we gotta sort of kind of cut it off here. But Brian, we got to get a shout out for Wald for Hope. Let us know, give all the listeners an idea of the past 2 years, what it's done to where you are today, and what your thoughts are coming up in the future.
Well, I appreciate that, and I know I might as well give the plug
There you go.
there.
There's
So that logo, actually, I designed that logo, and it incorporates a lot of things that are important and special to me. Obviously, if you look at it, it's a duck head, much like DU, goes the opposite way.
Yeah.
There's the fish hook. There's the green ribbon, which is the cerebral palsy. The official color of cerebral palsy awareness is green. So I've got the CP ribbon in there. I've got the turkey feather down below, and actually that antler is a shed antler that I found about 100 yards from a deer that I have harvested that is on my wall at the office. So, that this represents a lot that is important to me in my life. And, that segues into obviously Jace and the creation of Wild for Hope. And I know I chatted about this originally, and for the millions and millions of fans listen, millions. We I'm always happy to chat, and I would welcome the opportunity to chat more about kind of the history. But the last 2 years in particular have been, it's been rough. And I think it's been rough on everybody. We spoke before we got going here. Jace was supposed to have a surgery that got kiboshed because of COVID and all the stuff, which could affect his long-term well-being on his hips. But the past couple of years have been rough. But Wild for Hope obviously is a dinner that I started a few years ago now, that quickly became, and I'm going to self-plug myself, that it quickly became kind of the marquee dinner of across Ontario when it comes to representatives coming from all across Southern Ontario, right from every part of the province, that could drive to it. And we grew the sponsorship list. I think we're up over 100 different companies, small to large, who want to be part of it. And it's not, unfortunately, it's the story of Jace's upbringing and his how he came into this world that pulls at the heartstrings. But it's also, it's not just about Jace. It's about our desire to help others and help other families that are going through similar situations. And I think it ties into kind of everything we've talked about here tonight. And that, anglers and hunters and trappers are, in my view, they've got the biggest heart. And when I'm biased because I'm talking about Wild for Hope, but when I've looked at the generosity for folks wanting to be involved in Wild for Hope, it just blows me away. It's overwhelming. Anyways, I know we're short for time, but we were supposed to have a dinner obviously last year in March. COVID came in and struck us down. It was going to be our largest event. It was 225 spots, and we sold out literally in minutes. And people are saying, Brian, you're full of shit. That doesn't happen. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah,
it was minutes, and I had a waiting list of 225 people, and I had a waiting list at one point of 50 people after the.
Well, do you remember when I messaged you and I was like, Brian, I need a ticket, and you were like, they're all gone, and I'm like, shut up, they're not all gone. But Segulik had already counted.
He had already booked you in. Yeah,
he already booked me in, but it was gone that.
It was nuts. Like, it was crazy, and you know what? It's humbling. It's heartbreaking all in the same breath. But so we were supposed to have that dinner in March. We postponed it, hoping we could have it later in the year. That, shit happened. Obviously, we can't leave our houses, so we obviously weren't getting 225 of our friends together. Anyways, we held a mini silent auction just kind of as a test back in January. I cherry picked, I think there was 26 different items, threw up real quick, did a social media Facebook event, just kind of test the waters. It was a resounding success. We had, I think there was about 230 people, I think, went on to view the different stuff. We had active bidders. We raised just over $5,100 on 26 items that first night. So it was a good test. Through that, I've been trying to think about how we are going to keep the momentum going. I don't want Wild for Hope to die away. I want it to go strong. I want it to continue to expand. I talked about that story about the boy who got out fishing for the first time. I have this vision in my head of taking this to a scale that is beyond what people can believe, and that showcases and highlights and really puts a spotlight on anglers and hunters, something that's been direly missing from the general public. They see them and they think, I want to create something that the average person says, fuck, look what those people are doing for that little kid, right? Yeah. So I've been thinking about what we're going to do, and I still have a huge lineup of absolutely wonderful sponsors who I already have the product in-house. So I haven't even announced it yet on Facebook, but live here with the millions of fans one because Julie's listening. So I've added you another one here tonight. No, in all seriousness, this is a great episode.
Wait, she wasn't a fan before? What the hell are you saying?
Hey, you know what, Julie? Your lack of love for Bird Dog whiskey is one thing. That's one thing that I can.
That is the best video. That is the best video ever, hands down.
Best video ever.
So, anyways, we are going to have. I said to Jules actually tonight at supper time, I'm gonna plan out and I'm going to do another virtual event later this year, leading into the hunting season. We have such amazing products. Unfortunately, we won't be able to use everything. You know, we've got bows and we've got crossbows, and there's certain things that we just can't do on social media.
Yeah.
And there are certain products that have an incredibly high value to that. I'm worried from putting it on social media that, you know, it doesn't necessarily give the love to the sponsors as well. There's certain things that obviously we can't get in there, but I can tell you full-heartedly, and a couple of you guys have been to my dinner. You guys know that when we go out with prizes, if you don't win something, you got the shit ass luck. So we're going to go out with an event later this fall, because realistically, I'm a believer of, we're not out of this yet. We will get out of COVID, but we're not going to be able to have events, especially in March when I want to have it, Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, where we can have 200 people get together. I just don't think that's going to happen by this time, March. So we're going to have an online event. We're going to give lots of love to our sponsors. We're going to promote it. I hope everyone is able to participate, share it, participate if you can. If you can't, sharing it is just as important. It's raising awareness to cerebral palsy. You're helping my little boy Jace in his future with lots of big costs going to be coming up. But more importantly, or as importantly, I should say, I'm never more important than my son, but as importantly, obviously, we are always going to commit to donating 30% of the proceeds raised to help other families in need. In the past 2 years, we have donated $11,500 in our first 2 dinners when we were able to have dinners to 5 Counties Children's Center, where we have bought specialized adaptive equipment to go under their loaner programs, which literally are not in stock in 5 counties, because every time they come back, they're thoroughly cleaned and they're back out the door to a new family who needs them. So, we're dedicated and committed to helping those families. We identified. I lived it. I went through those hell days. I know there's not a lot of help out there for families. I know there are a lot of families and people struggling. I put on a brave face. There are days where we're crushed, but you got to put your left foot in front of your right, and you got to forge forward. And if we can help other people, then we're going to, sure as hell, we're going to do it. So stay tuned for more information on that. I appreciate you giving me a plug, Damien. I'll close by saying, guys, as always, I love listening to your show. I'm always happy. I love coming on chat. And we didn't even get to chat about my dog Nova. We'll have you have to have me on another time, or we'll do it over a hunt. But
no, we'll have you on again.
This is the first time that we've had the guest on that we haven't been like, we're gonna have to bug you to come back. No, he's like, oh, I gotta come back.
Yeah, I got more shit to talk about.
I told you, Phil. I can banter all day long, bud. Right?
Hey,
but I will close by saying,
wrong with running a brown dog. Okay.
For those listeners, my beloved Nova is a brown dog, and her papa came from someone wearing a Punisher waterfowl hat below me here on the screen. But I do want to say, Damien,
Phil's dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll leave that up to everybody, right? I do want to close by saying, Damien, congratulations to you as well. You're wearing a hat, which I've been watching all night, and I actually saw it when it was first promoted. You obviously recently announced the partnership with Real Geese. I'm a big fan of Real Geese, and congratulations to you. Congratulations to Real Geese. It's awesome partnership. Great companies getting together. So kudos to everyone involved. Good on you. Good on Real Geese for jumping on board with a bunch of stellar lads.
Yeah. So
even if they run brown dogs.
Yeah. So, and you sort of kind of stole my thunder there. So and Dave, well, no. And because I didn't get a chance to talk to Dave, but I know Dave was 100% behind it. But so with regards to anything that you have coming up with regards to Jace, cerebral palsy, awareness, Wild for Hope, anything. All you got to do is ask us and consider Punisher Waterfowl a venue for you to spread the word on that. Also, on behalf of Craig Mintz and Real Geese, we will donate 3 dozen Shadow Series. So I'll get those to you for your dinner. So that's 3 dozen Shadow Series for the Wild for Hope dinner.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and that's on behalf of Craig and us. So from Real Geese and Punisher Waterfowl, Dave and I, yeah. So listen, anything that we can do to help out Wild for Hope, cerebral palsy awareness, anything, Brian, all you got to do is just reach out and ask, because you know me, the only time I message you is when I need something. So you can revert that back to me too, right? When you need something, you can message me, because you know, if we're horrible, or at least I'm horrible at staying in touch with people. I tend to only message them when I need something. So,
Well, you know what? I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that, Damien. And you know what? Life gets busy, and you know what? I obviously, Dave and Ryan, I don't know you guys as well, and Phil and Damien. You know, we've shared a few bird dogs over the time at various places, but life gets busy, and you know, I'm the first one to say that. So you don't need to apologize that. And you know what? I've got a full bottle sitting in my cupboard that I want to open, but I don't want to open because the borders are closed. But
no.
You know what? You guys have always been supportive right since day one. Craig has been hugely supportive from Real Geese as well. You know, so you know, thank you, big love. You know, appreciate that, and you guys will always be known as huge supporters of Wild for Hope when I'm talking about it. So thank you.
Yeah. We don't really need
not to mention this man right behind me too, or right below me. He's been a big supporter too.
Who's that, Philly?
The man from Oshawa.
Oh, buddy, when you were talking about leaving the Wild for Hope dinner and not having prizes, I remember the very first one. Hey, Philly, remember walking back to the hotel room that night, me and you, with all the prizes we had? We were like, and we were pushing it off on, because Phil and I were drunk and the wives weren't. So we were like giving them stuff to carry because we couldn't carry it. It was fun. And we certainly heard about it as well, but it was fun.
Maybe.
Anyways, guys, this was an awesome episode.
I just want the maple fluff. I just want the maple fluff to come back.
That is the best picture.
Boys, great episode.
I love how Damien's internet lasted the entire episode.
I think 30% of Brian's next dinner should go to buying Damien a solid internet connection.
Big time. Hey, let's start campaigning Elon Musk to improve my internet connection. Because it's down to Elon is the only one that can save us now. Everybody, great episode. To the millions and millions of fans that are listening, listen, message us if you want to be put in touch with Brian and help out in the Wild for Hope any way whatsoever. If it's only just to be there and offer emotional support, whatever, message us. We'll get you in touch with Brian, and anything that you need to know about Wild for Hope, we're here. And Brian, you know, we'll back you and help you out any way we can. This was a great episode. So many good topics. I'm really digging this education on trappers and how they affect waterfowlers. Something I never really put a whole lot of thought into, but I'm really digging it and want to discuss it anymore. Let's do a quick round the table, and we'll shut her down from there. Ryan. He gone? Is he gone? Or is it my internet is shit?
Brian, great to catch up with you again, man. No, it's just you, Davey. And Yeah, and I hope all's well with your family, and especially the new addition. And hope you have a successful turkey season, man. Hopefully we can get back to normal soon. You can have your execute all your big plans. I know you got brewing, and reach that potential that you trying to achieve.
Thank you.
Billy.
Brian, pleasure as always, buddy. Really missing these dinners. Like, since the first one and the second one, just getting together with everybody and supporting such a great cause. Like, believe me, it's deeply missed. And I got that decoy sitting in my basement, and believe me, like, every time I look at it, it's like, man, I wish I could be there. Like, I like, as much as I want to keep the decoy, I want to give it up, because we know it's going to a good cause. And I miss seeing your handsome face and getting together with everyone. But again, great having you on tonight. And I learned a ton about trapping, and we appreciate your words of wisdom and everything you brought forth. And again, great guest as always. Look forward to seeing you again.
Dave.
Brian, one day we'll meet eventually. But no, make sure next time you put tickets out for Wild for Hope, you put 10 aside or whatever a table is, and Punisher will definitely buy tables worth of tickets every single time going forward.
Big time.
Just let me know right away, and I'll send you that. We'll get it going. Hopefully we meet.
Sounds good.
Brian, to you, buddy. Last word.
All right. Well, listen, guys, I really do enjoy coming on. I love shooting the shit about whatever, talking about shit that we all love. So, to all of you, thanks for having me on. As I was joking, and as Dave joked about, we didn't even talk about Nova, and Phil, you'll know, I didn't go with the M2. I went with the Frankie, but I am going to a 20 gauge this fall. I am fully supportive of going to the 20 this year.
Christ.
But no, in all seriousness, love coming on, guys. You guys are awesome. Love listening to the show. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'm always happy to jump in when the coach says, "Put me in, coach." So
awesome. Thanks, Brian. Brian, again, buddy, thanks. And I just want to reiterate, anything that we can do to help you out, all you got to do is ask, buddy. And really, you just need to ask.
thanks, brother.
Everybody, this was episode 48 of the Union. We are 2 more episodes away from episode 50 and the 1-year mark from the time that we've launched the Union 0430. And in our opinion, mostly our opinion, we've come a long ways in that 1 year. And we've had some great successes in this year. And we're so glad that you all joined us and followed along and watched us. And it's awesome when I hear guests come on and they make fun of some of the stuff that we've said and shows that they've actually listened to other shows and stuff like that. So it's awesome.
The only thing that's taken a step back in the last year is Damien's fucking internet.
Yes.
This is true. So on behalf of Ryan, Dave, Phil, Mark, and myself, thank you. Thank you to all of our guests, especially our returning guests like Brian. And we've got so many people. If I could pull off the 1-year anniversary show that I wish I could, it would be fucking amazing. But logistically,
It will be amazing. It will be amazing.
Yeah, it will
Every
be.
episode is amazing.
With that, big love, everybody. Be nice to one another. Stop being fucking douchebags and look after one another. Big love. We'll see you all next week.